Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and in this video, I'm going to be creating a new React project from start. Now, this project is going to be sort of a more real-world example. We're going to be using Webpack. We're going to be using React and Babel, just like we were. However, everything's going to be loaded locally through Node modules instead of importing JavaScript files that are being loaded from a CDN. So let's get started by creating our project, adding our Node packages, and installing them. Okay, so now we're actually going to start our project. And to do this, we're going to start from scratch. Now we're going to be using a really basic Webpack config and dev server. And this isn't going to be anything we need to know a ton about. In fact, I'm going to tell you sort of what we're doing as we're doing it. And this isn't going to be a full-on Webpack tutorial series or anything like that. This is just going to be a really basic example. So let's go ahead and start off by creating a project. I'm simply just going to head to where I keep my sites, and I'm just going to make a new folder. Now this new folder is just going to be called React-for-everyone. Okay, you can name this whatever you'd like for your particular project. And I'm just going to drop this into Sublime Text here just so we have this project as a folder open, even though we have nothing going on in here yet. Let's go ahead and just create a really basic index.html file. So we're going to say index.html. And in here, we're just going to basically need our sort of standard HTML. We're going to need a doc type. And it looks like Sublime sort of auto-completed that for me. We have an HTML tag. We have our head tag. Did some weird indenting here. That's all right. I'll fix it up. Now the title can just simply be whatever you'd like. We're just going to have this be React for everyone. Okay, so now that we have that, let's just go ahead and add a blank div. Now this div is going to be where our React app is going to be rendered inside of. So don't have to worry too much. We can just give this an ID. We could just give this an ID of something like app. And so our entire application is going to be rendered within inside of this div. Of course, we're going to have to tell React to render it within that div. Now, in addition, we also want to load a script. Now, this script does not exist yet. So let's just go ahead and add a script tag at the end of the body here. And we don't need to say type JavaScript because that is the older HTML syntax. We can just say src for the source, and in quotes, we're just going to want to go ahead and have this be app.js. Now we can save this. Now, like I said, app.js doesn't exist, so don't try loading this in your browser. You're going to get an error saying that it's not going to work. Next, we need to add our Node packages. We need to basically get this set up as a Node project. So you can head over your terminal, make sure I'm in the right project. Let's change directories into React for everyone. Okay. Now we're going to want to run npm init. Now this assumes that you have Node.js installed on your computer already. If you don't, take the time, install Node. We're going to need that. But I assume since you've gotten this far, you do already. So we have npm init. And we can just really breeze through this, just hitting enter if we would like. Is this okay? Yes. Even though I didn't have to type yes there. Okay, so we have our npm. We want to go ahead and install some packages now. Let's actually just head back to Sublime. I'm going to edit the package.json file manually here. And down beneath license, and have a comma. And inside of here, we're just going to have dev dependencies like so, colon, and then an object. Now inside of our dev dependencies, we need a couple of things. Let's just first go ahead and grab Babel-core. Missed the hyphen there. Babel-core. And the version for that, we're going to use the up caret arrow thing. And we're going to say 5.8 point anything. So anything that's at least 5.8 here. I'll have a comma. Now I'm just going to paste this in here a couple more times just so I have this basic format here. Now we need, other than Babel core, in addition to that, we need Babel-loader. And we want Webpack, and we'll want Webpack dev server as well. Now I'll go through the versions for these in just a second. Obviously, we don't need the same version of all of these. So it's webpack-dev-server. This is going to be a really basic dev server for us. Okay, so we need Babel loader. We're going to want version at least 5.3, and for Webpack, it's at least 1.12. And then Webpack dev server, we're going to need version 1.10. So we can just say up 1.10. Okay, so 5.8, 5.3, 1.12, and 1.10. Now we want to go on to our actual normal dependencies, which will be React. So the dev dependencies are just what we need for development and stuff that's not going to be in production here. And our dependencies, we have dev dependencies needs to become just simply dependencies. I'll copy and paste a lot just because it's easier for me. It's less likely that you're going to be making mistakes. And we're just going to want React. Now, later on in this project, we're going to be adding things like React Router, and we'll have to add to this dependencies. We can just simply do that with an npm install command anyways. But we can just say React, and the version that we're going to be looking for here is 0.13 asterisk. Okay, so your package.json should look very similar to this or exactly like this. Let's go ahead and run npm install. Make sure there's no errors here. And it looks like I have an error. Line 16, I had a comma here on line 15 when it was the last item of an object. You may have noticed that. Now let's go npm install once more. I can type npm install, and it's going to go ahead and grab our packages. Okay, so everything should be in there. If we just simply head to Sublime Text, we can open up the Node modules folder and just make sure the stuff that we need is all in here, Babel and all that good stuff. Okay, so now that we have our packages all installed and ready, we're now ready to start our Webpack configuration. Now, like I said, this next video is not going to be an in-depth video on Webpack, but I will explain what we're doing for each step. So you can follow along, and we're going to get started. By the end of next video, we're going to have our dev server up and going, and then we're going to be able to start working on our application. So as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment in the video, hit me up at Twitter or Facebook at Level Up Tutorials. I love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.